You know that specific circle of hell I'm talking about?
I think I do.
You fire up a new chat with an LLM, you have this grand vision for a complex app, and the first 20 minutes are just pure magic. You feel like a 10x developer.
Oh yeah, the honeymoon phase of AI coding. It's a beautiful place to be.
It is. But then you hit message 50, or maybe message 100, and suddenly the AI isn't your genius co-founder anymore. It's like it suffered some kind of head injury. It starts rewriting functions you finished an hour ago. It forgets variables exist. It starts hallucinating libraries that haven't been updated since 2019. It's maddening.
And you have officially entered what the author calls the bonfire of tokens.
That is such a poetic way to describe burning money on cloud compute for absolutely zero results.
No way.
For the longest time, I thought it was just me. Like, maybe I'm bad at prompting.
We all think that.
But today we're looking at an article that says, no, this is a structural failure. It's a deep dive into a piece from The New Stack by David Eastman, published just recently, January 31st, 2026.
Right, and the title really cuts right to the chase. Beating Context Rot in Claude Code with GSD.
Context rot. It felt like something you'd find in the back of a vegetable drawer, but it's actually destroying our software projects.
It really is. And what's interesting about Eastman's take here is that he isn't just complaining. He's testing a specific tool, this extension called GSD, that claims to solve it.
Right.
But not by better prompting, which is what everyone usually tries to sell us. He's solving it by fundamentally changing the power dynamic between the human and the AI.
Which is a polite way of saying the AI takes over management duties.
Essentially, yes. Eastman runs this experiment where he tries to build a desktop app in Swift, a language he literally does not know, and the tool forces him to stop acting like a coder.
And start acting like a client.
Exactly. It effectively interrogates him before writing a single line of code.
Okay, we are going to get to that interrogation because it's honestly hilarious and kind of humbling. But first, we have to diagnose the patient. What exactly is context rot? Because technically, models like Claude have massive context windows now. Right. We're talking hundreds of thousands of tokens. I could paste a whole novel in there. Why can't it remember an API key from 20 messages ago?
That is the big misconception in the field right now. We confuse capacity with attention.
So just because the model can hold the data doesn't mean it's paying attention to it.
Precisely. It's the difference between hearing and listening. Eastman references that foundational paper, Attention is All You Need.
The paper that gave us transformers and this whole AI boom.
That's the one. The mechanism of attention is mathematically expensive. When you have a massive conversation history, the model has to decide which tokens, which bits of information are relevant to the current query.
And it turns out they aren't great at prioritizing the right things when the noise level gets too high.
Eastman uses this perfect analogy.
The bored 6-year-old.
The bored 6-year-old. It's so good.
I laughed when I read that. As someone with nieces and nephews, I felt that deep in my soul.
It's so accurate, though. If you tell a 6-year-old a short story, they're with you. They remember the dragon, the castle, the sword.
Right.
But if you try to explain the tax implications of a 401k rollover, combined with, a complex backstory involving 50 characters, the kid zones out.
They start playing with the carpet.
They prioritize the early tokens, the first thing you said, or just whatever seems most immediate. And that is attention dilution. The information is technically in the memory, but the attention mechanism has drifted. That's context rot.
And the result is what you call the bonfire of tokens. The project stalls. You end up in this loop of correcting the AI, which adds more tokens to the context, which confuses the AI further, which leads to more errors.
It's a death spiral. And Eastman contrasts this with what he calls vibe coding.
Vibe coding is basically how I work. Hey, make me a website that looks cool and does X. It's improvisational.
Which is fine for scripts. If you need a Python script to sort some files, vibe coding is great. But Eastman's point is that vibe coding collapses under weight. A complex software architecture needs structure, strict constraints, and file integrity. Vibes don't compile.
So if the diagnosis is attention dilution leading to context rot, what's the cure? Eastman brings in this tool, GSD. Now, does he ever actually spell out what GSD stands for?
He sticks to the acronym in the article, but in the developer world, it almost universally stands for get start.
Or stuff, if we're being polite.
Or stuff, yes.
Yeah, fair enough. So is GSD a new AI model? Is it a competitor to Claude or GPT?
No, and this is crucial to understanding the solution. GSD is a context engineering layer.
A context, what?
It's a piece of metaprogramming. Think of it as a wrapper that sits on top of the AI model.
A wrapper?
Imagine you have a brilliant but chaotic genius who forgets everything you say after 5 minutes. GSD is the strict project manager you hire to stand next to them with a clipboard.
Okay, so how does the project manager fix the memory problem?
By managing the flow of information. Instead of dumping the entire chat history into the model every single time, GSD breaks the project down into subtasks. It uses what are called sub-agents.
Sub-agents? That sounds like a spy movie.
A little bit, but it just parses the problem. It says, okay, right now we are only working on the database schema. I am only going to feed the AI the context relevant to the database schema.
Okay.
It protects the bored 6-year-old from getting overwhelmed by hiding the irrelevant details until they're needed.
That's smart. It's compartmentalization.
It is. But it's not just about hiding info. It's about generating structure. Eastman installs this thing. It's just a command line tool. You run it with npx and creates a new project. And immediately, the experience changes.
You mentioned a progress bar, right?
Yes. A green percentage meter at the bottom of the terminal, it sort of gamifies the build. But the real shift is what happens when he tries to start the project. He's trying to build a JSON viewer.
Okay.
Basically, he has a bunch of messy data files, JSON objects, and wants a nice interface to look at them.
And like a typical user, or at least like me, he's vague. He doesn't write a 10-page spec sheet. He just says, essentially, I want a viewer.
He was purposefully vague to test the tool. And this is where GSD shines. It doesn't start coding.
What does it do?
It starts the interrogation.
I love this concept. Usually, we are the ones grilling the AI. Why did you do that? Fix this error about. Here, the roles flip.
Completely. GSD stops him and asks, who is the audience for this?
This is a classic product manager question. It forces you to think about the user, not just the code.
And Eastman says, colleagues. Then GSD asks, what is the goal? Eastman replies to avoid colleagues working directly with raw JSON files.
Seemingly simple answers.
You'd think so. But the AI caught him in a logical trap. Eastman said he wanted a viewer. But his reason was to prevent colleagues from breaking files. GSD realized if they can break files, that means they are currently editing files.
Oh, why?
So a viewer isn't enough. They need an editor.
That's actually a profound leap. The AI inferred a feature requirement editing capability from a safety constraint.
Eastman called it being skewered. He realized his own request was flawed. If he had been vibe coding, the AI would have just given him a read-only HTML page.
And he would have had to start over.
Exactly. He would have shown it to his colleagues. They would have said, great, but how do we fix the typos? And he'd be back at square one.
Context route avoided before line 1 is even written.
Precisely. And this skewering continued into the platform choice.
Right, because usually you just build a web app for this. A simple local server, view it in Chrome. Done.
That was GSD's first suggestion. A web app is logical, but because of that editing requirement for local files that came out during the interrogation, GSD pivoted.
Why?
Browsers are finicky about letting you overwrite local files on a hard drive for security reasons.
So the AI realized a web app would introduce friction. It foresaw the permissions nightmare.
Correct. So it recommended a desktop app, specifically using SwiftUI for macOS.
And here's the kicker. Eastman doesn't know Swift.
Never used it.
This is the part that scares me a little, to be honest. He's committing to a language he can't debug. If the AI messes up a bracket in JavaScript, I can probably find it. In Swift, I'm lost.
He is. But GSD basically says, don't worry about the syntax, that's my job. Your job is the intent.
That is the shift from coder to director.
It is. Eastman points out that if he were doing this manually, he would have skipped all this planning. The developer's dilemma. We're lazy. We want to see pixels on the screen.
I feel seen. I would have just opened VS Code and started typing HTML, and then 3 hours later I'd be crying because the data structure was wrong.
We all would, but GSD forced him to sit on his hands. It actually generated a project.t.md file.
The roadmap.
A full roadmap. Phases, goals, requirements, verification steps. Eastman actually tried to tell it, no, I don't need a roadmap. And GSD effectively said, I think you do, and made one anyway.
That is bold. It ignored the user's laziness because the system requires structure to function. It prioritized the health of the project over the user's impatience.
And that project.t.md file is the secret weapon against context rot.
How so?
Because now the truth of the project isn't hidden in message number 45 of a chat log that spans 3 days. It's anchored in a static file. When the AI needs to know what are we building, it doesn't have to search its fading memory of the conversation. It just reads project.t.md. It's like giving the bored 6-year-old a cheat sheet.
That makes so much sense. You're externalizing the memory. You aren't relying on the AI's brain to hold the state. You're putting the state on the hard drive.
Exactly. It's documentation-driven development, which, humans hate doing, but machines are actually very good at if you force them.
So they have a plan. They have a platform macOS. Eastman puts GSD into what he calls YOLO mode.
You only look once.
Which, for a tool obsessed with careful planning, is a fantastic name for a button.
It really is. It basically means don't ask me for permission for every little step, just execute the plan. He set it to quick planning and let it run.
And this is where it starts burning tokens.
It burns a lot. It's spawning subagents, generating documentation, checking dependencies. It's expensive in terms of compute, but, compare that cost to the cost of a human developer spending 3 days debugging a hallucinated variable.
True. So what was the result? Did it build the app?
It did. It generated the file structure for version 1. It successfully created a viewer that could expand into an editor. But the most impressive part for Eastman wasn't the code itself. It was the black box nature of the requirements.
What does he mean by black box?
He realized that he never once told the AI to use CRU principles, create, read, update, delete. He never told it to use specific design patterns for macOS.
It just figured it out.
It extracted those technical specifications purely from the product interview. It translated, I don't want my colleagues breaking files, into, we need a robust CRU'd application with input validation.
That is the dream, isn't it? That is the Star Trek computer. Computer, make me a simulation that does X. You don't tell the computer which physics engine to use, you just state the outcome.
We are getting very close to that. Now, I have to be the bearer of bad news. The source material ends with a bit of a cliffhanger.
No.
Eastman says we'll examine the runtime performance next week. So we don't know if the app ran buttery smooth or if it crashed on launch.
That is tragic. I need closure.
But, and I think this is the right take, Eastman argues that the code isn't the point. The planning was the success.
Right.
The fact that he could navigate a project in a totally foreign language, maintain a consistent architecture, and generate a valid project structure without the AI losing its mind, that is the breakthrough.
Because code can be fixed. If there's a syntax error, you can paste it back in and say, fix this. But if the architecture is rotten, if the context is gone, you're dead in the water.
Exactly. You can fix a bug. You can't fix a project that has forgotten what it's supposed to be.
This brings up a massive question for me. We've been talking about context rot as a technical problem. But the solution, this GSD approach, seems to solve it by removing the human from the coding loop almost entirely.
It does. It fundamentally shifts the role.
If GSD handles the architecture, and it handles the platform choice, and it manages the roadmap, and it writes the code, what am I doing?
You are the director, or maybe, more accurately, the client.
That's the worry, isn't it? At what point does director just become the guy with the credit card?
It's a provocative thought. Eastman's experiment shows that knowing how to code is rapidly becoming knowing how to specify.
So prompt engineering is dead. Long live context architecture.
We spent 2 years trying to find the magic words to whisper to the oracle. Act as a senior engineer. You are an expert in Swift.
Take a deep breath and think step by step. I've typed that so many times.
Right. But Eastman is proving that we don't need better prompts. We need better environments. We need to engineer the process the AI follows, imposing the boring structural stuff that humans hate. Documentation, planning, roadmaps onto the AI itself.
That's almost ironic. To make AI creative and effective, we have to force it to be a bureaucrat.
A bureaucrat who can write Swift in seconds. And honestly, isn't that what we want? We want the reliability of a bureaucrat with the speed of a machine.
I suppose so. But think about the implications for junior developers. If a tool like GSD can take a vague idea and architect a full CRU'd app in a language you don't know, sticking to best practices you didn't even know existed, what does that do to the learning curve?
It flattens it. Or maybe it removes the ladder entirely. I mean, Eastman built a macOS app. He learned zero Swift in the process. He didn't learn how to code. He learned what to build.
It prioritizes domain knowledge understanding the problem over syntax knowledge.
So if you're a listener right now and you've been banging your head against the wall with Claude or GPT-4, watching them forget your instructions, maybe it's time to stop blaming the model.
Stop trying to outprompt the model. Stop trying to keep the context in your head.
And look for tools that externalize that context. Whether it's GSD or whatever comes next, the future isn't chatting with code, it's managing agents that code for you.
And be prepared to be interrogated.
Oh, absolutely. And be grateful for it. If the AI isn't pushing back on your vague requirements, it's probably just hallucinating a solution to make you happy.
A happy client is a client with broken code.
Usually, yes.
Well, on that note, I think I'm going to go fire up my terminal and see if GSD can help me organize my life, or at least my file system.
Just don't tell it you want a viewer if you really want an editor.
I've learned my lesson. That's our deep dive on context rot in GSD. Huge thanks to David Eastman and the New Stack for the insights.
Check out the article if you want to see the terminal screenshots. It's worth a look.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Keep learning.